Alrighty, welcome everybody back to NickTalks. If I sound a little quiet in this video, I'm doing this at like 1 in the morning, so we're trying to keep it down just a little bit, but not too much. So this video is going to be pretty much the same format as we normally do. But I think at the end, I'm just going to kind of rant a little bit, just because it's late. And I didn't really plan on doing a video today, so, and I have like normal points, but I also have some points that have been on my mind that I kind of don't want to format them or make them like official documented things. I just like, it'll be more for me, basically, like future me than it is for you, but you know, it's public, so you do whatever you want. But with that said, we will jump right into it. Hope everybody's doing great. I've been doing better over here if you're hoping the same about me. But hopefully you guys are finding some peace and love and having a good time and making some money out there. But here we go. So in a previous video, so our first thing is about this employee-employer relationship, which was like one of my first videos that I ever did. And it was like basically talking about how, selling your time and you are not a slave, and like, what is your job? Do your job, what you have signed up to do, right? And if people ask you to do a bunch of extra shit, you don't really need to do that, and to trust your management to handle the problems that you are not equipped to solve, right? And to basically like flow within the structure of the place you work in, essentially. And to like, everybody has this bad image of snitching, but feel free to communicate with your man. Try to solve the problem yourself first, and if you can't, then communicate that with your next higher up, right? All these things I said. Now, I have, with this new place that I'm at, because I first worked in a corporate structured place, and this place is more family owned, like 2 managers and then staff, and it is not the same. So I wanted to kind of go back over that and kind of re-dissect it in terms of a bigger view that I have gained from this new experience. So I would say find the structure find what kind of structure exists in the workplace that you exist in. And so that means that, like, if you see that there is something set up, like some kind of hierarchy set up so that there is someone directly above you that you can report to, and then someone directly above them, and all of their duties are clearly aligned, somewhat militant, where you have your roles in your position, and anything outside of that is none of your business. And then the next guy up, if that problem falls outside of your position, you pass it to the next guy. And if it's outside of his, he passes it to the next guy. And that's, a hyper-structured thing. And if you have to be able to identify this. And if you have that, then my original advice stands of using that to your advantage, and don't fight it, don't go against it, and don't be afraid because, what are people gonna think? No, dude, just use what the situation around you is equipping you for, right? Now, on the opposite end, you have where it's basically just a bunch of individuals who are grouped together with the glue of a building, which is the exact opposite of a structured organism, right? And so in this case, which is now in the position that I find myself, I notice that personal accountability comes much greater. Now, I would advocate for personal accountability and, taking care of your shit heavy, no matter where you are, right? But it seems to be even more important here. So what I mean by this is basically, you have to be on top of your game, and watching what's going on and making sure that you see kind of everything, so that nobody's going to get one on you, no one's going to take advantage of you, no one, like, you just be hyper aware. Push yourself to be even more aware than you normally would be, so that way nobody's going to sneak your money out from right underneath you, right? And in doing so, you hold others accountable. You hold others accountable so that not only are they not going to be sneaking on you, but they know that if they sneak on anybody, you're going to see it. And most people don't do shady things in plain view. They do it when they know nobody's watching, right? And so if suddenly there's one guy who is not afraid to come up and say, hey, you are not doing this to me, whatever you want to do to people who can't see, do what you got to do, right? But I'm just telling you that I see you and I'm not letting you do this to me, right? Like, someone tries to take a table from you, someone tries to take a job from you, someone tries to take a contract from you, and it was supposed to be yours, and they did some shady stuff. They manipulated the system somehow. You go up and say, no, that's not how we do things here, okay? And I'm not letting you do that. And someone who's going to try and do that is not a strong-willed character normally anyway, so they're going to be like, okay, all right. And then now they know that, like, this person is actually paying attention, so I can't abuse the system, at least near them. Right? Does it fix them as a person? No, but that's not your job. Your job is to clock in and get paid, right? So the personal accountability to the point of holding others accountable is always important, but it's even more important when the structure does not support that. Because normally, if you have people blatantly violating rules around you that make it harder for you to work, you can just go up to them and say, like, listen, this is not how this works here, right? We don't do that. And if you're making a problem here where there doesn't need to be a problem, and you're costing everyone something, right? So just get your stuff together. And then if there's a problem from there, you can support that to higher management. But in this situation, you have to be even. I feel like I'm drifting a little bit here. I had a point there, but I'm losing it. But the point is just be on the ball, be on your game. Don't be sleeping on the job, right? And be watching both what you're supposed to be watching and everything else. And depending on the structure of the place that you're in, you could know when to take breaks and where to kind of relax, and know where, like, someone else is watching this for me, so I don't have to. You know what I'm saying? But when you get to a place where there is nobody watching ever, and the people that are watching are super friends with everyone that works there, so they're not going to do anything anyways, then you have to be the one to step up and provide that for the structure, for this multicellular organism that is trying to flow and operate together to achieve a goal, right? Normally management, or the inner workings of the system that is not solely the base employees, provide that lubrication for the machine. But if that isn't the case in the place you work, you have to be able to see that, identify that, and then figure out, how am I going to supplement that by myself? When I'm not here, I literally could not give a fuck less what happens. It could be a total shit show, and that's not my problem, right? But because as much as I would love to be on a crusade all the time, there are certain times where you just gotta be like, is it worth it? Is it worth it for me to fix every single problem here? And I'm trying a new hands-off method where I'm not trying to be Mr. Inspirational and push everyone to a higher standard, but just when I'm around, then I make sure stuff doesn't cross the line, right? And that's what I'm advocating for. That's what I'm saying, is that when you do that, it makes the whole system better for everyone, and people know they can trust you, and you make more money, and better things come, and you get power from the universe and all that, whatever. Cool. So I suppose the reason that I'm coming back to this is, in the original video, I did not have the experience to say that there are changes that need to be made to your own personal behavior, depending on the system that you're operating within, right? Cool. So we will move on to, that's pretty much all I got on that one. Oh, okay, I guess I could tie this in too. Although this is kind of a whole, I really wanted to wear this, but it's too much. It's too much. I am much smaller these days. Unfortunately, took some time off the old Chaim gym. So, but that's okay. I wear these to be comfortable, not to be a model. So we'll tie in emotional intelligence real quick, and I just want to touch on it, I think, briefly, because that's kind of like a whole, and actually that might be one of the things that I bring back up at the end and just kind of riff on for a little bit. But I want to tie this into here is where this whole personal accountability to the point where you can call other people on their bullshit has to come with, like, you have to be smooth about it. You have to be level-headed, and you can't be like, yeah, everyone knows the guy who's going to come at you and be like, I saw you doing this wrong, right? It's like I had this guy that I worked with that there was no vaping in the restaurant, which is a normal rule, right? But if I see a kid who's got his vape on his lap or sitting on the table, or I see someone out of the corner of my eye vaping, I'm not going to run over there and tell them to put that stuff away, right? You know, if I see it once, okay, whatever. If I am passing by and I see him directly, then I'm gonna be like, yo, homie, there's no vaping in here. Like, let's cut the stuff here. But there was a guy that I worked with that immediately he would go up and he would tell the person, and then he'd run right to manage me like, there's a kid in this booth, this seat with this color sweatshirt, and he's got a vape and he's vaping, and I saw him. I was like, okay, bro. So that's what I mean. You have to have the right energy, and that comes with emotional intelligence. And this is a huge topic that I could probably spend 3 videos worth of time going into, which is why I will save it for some other time. But basically just make sure that you can calm your vibrations down a little bit. And is this really a problem, right? Do I know this is a problem? And I'm calling this out because it is affecting directly the money that I make, right, and the flow of the system around me. Not because I want to call a person out because it makes me stronger, some bullshit like that. No. You just make sure that you're steady about it. And that's what gives you the strength, I believe, of character to be able to call it out, so that you're not just running up and, me, you didn't do this. Because then nobody respects you anyways, right? It's just being like, hey, no, you were wrong here, okay? This is what we actually need to do, and then moving on, and then not treating them any different, you know? So I think that's all I'm going to touch on it, but just be able to calm your emotions. And sometimes that's harder to do than others, especially when there's a major violation happening, and especially if it really affects you, then that can, make you mad or whatever. And I'm not perfect at this. Sometimes I fly off the handle and I'm like, I get pissed, I yell at somebody, whatever. You apologize later. It's not good, basically. You want to be like if you got a problem with somebody, you just take it to them directly. Hey, this is a problem, right? I know this is what's going on. This is it needs to be fixed, essentially. We need to address this. Not that doesn't help anybody. I can hardly even look at myself here. I'm just a shadow of my former self. Horrid. It's tough, man. When you start going to the gym and you make some progress, and then that progress starts going down instead of up, it's like I've been starving for 7 weeks. Horrid. Even though I know it's not that bad. I probably look, to the people who are watching these videos, they probably look damn near the same. But I see it. I see the difference. Cool. So we're going to move on to the next point, which is most success is accidental, is the main theme here. And that is any success, spiritual success, business success, any personal growth, whatever, any kind of big win. A lot of times, especially, the first big wins that you get are all by accident. It's this beautiful coalition, the perfect storm of events and factors that you just so happen to be going to the gym for a while, and you've been hydrated for a long time, and then you started doing this other hobby that really calmed you down suddenly, and then you ate a couple really good meals for the whole week, and you stopped doing some negative habit for a while. So, and then all of a sudden you have this like boom release of energy, and you're like, holy shit, like I'm doing everything right, and you get this major progress, and you feel this unlocking of like something happened essentially, like either you get some major opportunity, or just your state of being, you feel like you have reached a milestone of I'm doing really good right now, right? Or you suddenly push through something that a plateau in the gym or something, right? A lot of events of success I have found, anyways, that they're completely accidental. You didn't plan on doing all these things at once. You didn't plan on tweaking these factors to ensure a highly probable successful outcome, right? You just kind of started, hey, maybe I should read more. And you started reading, and then you kind of picked it up. And then, hey, maybe I should, start running. Oh, okay. And then next thing you know, all these things kind of mesh together, and then all of a sudden you're like doing insanely well in life and just crushing goals, right? But my point here is that instead of letting it be accidental, because that's always nice, right? Just to push forward in different avenues, and then eventually, like, you kind of accidentally find some great mixture that leads you to the place that you wanted to go, right? Trying to think back on the times that you've reached those points and reverse engineer how you got there so that you can create that as a more statistically likely scenario. And what I mean by that is basically, like, when I think back, okay, I can highlight in my mind probably the top 4 time periods of a few months to a few years, or to a few months to like a year in my life, that were like insane, like booming with growth and activity and memories and fulfillment and success and money, whatever, right? So thinking about these times in your own life, and just being like, okay, what was I doing during this time? What was I thinking about? What mindset did I have? What kind of things was I pushing really hard on? What kind of things was I taking it easy on and trying to think about less? What was I doing? What was I not doing? Who was I talking to? Where was I going? What was I eating? These kind of things. And this is my theory anyways, because I suppose that I have recently kind of trickled back in. I feel like I'm in one of these time periods again, or at least in the beginning phases of it, of these big booms. So I can't say that this is a thing that can be done, but it doesn't seem impossible. It seems completely reasonable that it's a fact. It's kind of like this whole designing your success and making a blueprint to where you want to go. Like, I feel like if you can look back at everything that you've succeeded at before, and then find all the factors that you can identify, which isn't always easy. Sometimes it's like not very obvious what you were doing that was right and what you were doing that was wrong. And then sometimes trying to do that intentionally actually takes away from the fact that it led to success before. It's a difficult game. It's difficult to find an optimal balance in all things. And the more optimal the balance, the harder it is to really dial it in, right? But I feel like that's worth it. That's worth it, to take that time and to look back and dig through your past and dig through your present and really try and design a system that produces results, that produces continuous positive feedback. Awesome success, great state of being, super present, right? If your goal is to be happy, always, like, maybe not always happy, but happy way more percentage of the time than any other emotion, right? I'm more of I like to be balanced kind of guy, right? I like to be in a good mood, right? But I like to feel everything. So it's not quite me, but for me, it's like be able to experience all of the emotions and stay level through them, and just create what your goal, or think about what your goals are, and then create a system that produces those results continuously, right? Like an engine just churning out the butter that you want, essentially. And so that's something that I've been trying to do now for a while, and I've kind of stepped off the gas a little bit because it's so tiring. It is very tiring trying to like tweak every tiny little thing that you do, and for how long, and for how many reps, and who you talk to, and why you talk to them, and digging through all the reasons for every single little quirk, and smile, and laugh, and sight and sound, and wake up time, and go to bed time, everything, because you can really get deep into it, right? But if you can find a system that works for you, and just like a good diet is this diet that you stick to, find a system that works for you and one that you can stick to and that continuously produces results, that would be a worthwhile endeavor, I think. Even if it takes you 5 years, then the rest of your life is just like, right? Rocket, fuel to jet, FTJ, right? You know what I'm saying? Something to think about. Something to think about. Creating success on purpose instead of by accident. Creating your state of being by design instead of oopsie. Cool. Okay, and then that kind of wraps it up. But we're gonna do this quick. 21 minutes, 22 minutes. That's not bad. And I'm gonna have a lot of time to bullshit, baby. So I have discuss versions, which I'm kind of excited about, actually, because it starts to get into, I think, a little bit more of my tinfoil hat realm. Just slightly, not too bad. But essentially, when you are continuously active in... Damn, I only got 55 on the major timer. That's okay. We'll figure it out. Sorry, I didn't mean to take away from that there. But, so when you start to, like, continuously stay on track of trying to design your life, right? Whether you're succeeding at that or not, like, effectively producing better results. Whether you're doing that or not, right? At least you're paying attention. When you start paying attention and you pay attention for a long enough timeline, you start kind of being able to, and maybe I'm too in the nuts and bolts of this to see that it's just like a normal thing that anybody can do, but I feel like I'm more able to do it the longer that I've been paying really close attention to myself and my output and my inner world, essentially, is that you can kind of, remember, like it's when you get an emotion and it just floods your whole system with like a long-term memory, it's kind of like that, but you remember versions of yourself that existed in the past, that is kind of like, during this time period I had so many subsets that were really me, right? And then it kind of faded for a little bit, and I was in this like interim weird misty space, and then you like kind of had a moment like that again. So you kind of hop from these very solid personal time periods, hop to and from them. And what I'm seeing now is, not only is that the case, but when you feel that, okay, that's kind of getting too little, I don't know, whatever. That wasn't a good way to frame it. But basically, like, if you can identify these versions of yourself, then you can reboot them as if you were pulling parts from an old PC, right? Alliteration for you. You can reboot them and bring them back, right? So I've had time periods in my past that were like, there were some things that I did so incredibly well, just little parts of my personality that I designed. I'm really on this P shit, huh? Partner? I ain't playing. Pimp? Whatever. So parts of my past that were like incredibly dialed in one aspect. So maybe my emotional intelligence during this current, whatever year it was like super dialed to where my vibrations were just super close the whole time, right? And that's something that I maybe haven't been able to get to since. This is just hypothetical here, but in this instance, you can kind of, or in this theory of mine now, is that you can, well, not theory, because I have actually successfully done this very recently, go back through and identify that as, what was this success, and really outline it and really just dig deep into it and understand it, and then try and push your current version to fit that mold in that area, right? So it's kind of like if I were to draw a map, and maybe every year I draw a map, and I take the whole year to draw it, and then at the end of the year I put the map away, and I stop working on it. I can still have it out and I can still look at it, but I don't work on it anymore. And then the next year I start working on a new map, right? And it's of the kind of the same area, but I get to look at new areas, and I get to, maybe look at old areas and make them better and things like that. And then essentially when let's say that now I'm 10 years down the line, and that first map that I made, there was a part of it that was just so good. And when I look at the map, I know that there was something about that is just so key, but I can't quite put my finger on it, right? So I just look at it, and then finally I really understand what the beauty is on that map, like where I was successfully drawing on this piece of paper here. And then I can take that part and put it onto my new map. And now, of course, 10 years down the line, I'm going to have other parts of the map that are better, right? But this thing I had not figured out in a long time because I was focusing on other things, or just the way that I was, and my experiences had changed my focus, whatever, right? But then you could port that over, dump it on this map once you really understand what you're looking for, and then now you have kind of pushed and filled out that corner of the map, if this is making sense. But this is all, of course, happening within your personality. So this is what I mean by versions, where instead of just reverting back, because I don't think I believe in that. I don't think I believe that is the right thing, like where you just become what you were before. That doesn't seem to follow like the general principles of life, of continuously moving forward. You are in metamorphosis to become something better all the time, whether you like it or not, or become something different all the time. And I feel like returning to an entire past version is just like a total reboot that is wasting time. Just not necessary and not useful at all. But taking great parts of an old system, it's like if I were to design like Photoshop software, and my whole job is designing the tools, not necessarily the software, but just how the tools work and the toolbar. And every so often, you kind of have just versions in between, but sometimes things really stand out about, this patch or this update or whatever, here and here and here. And then like years down the line, when you have all this data to look at, you can be like, wow, that icon for the ellipsis tool, that was pretty clean in 2008, and then you can take that and put it on the new one, right? And then when you go back and you can see what are all the things that really worked, and then just dump them all into the current version. And the better you are at being like unemotional about it and just looking at what are the benefits. You can't probably hear that, but some trickling down through the walls. God, ghetto apartments, man, I tell you what. So, I think it's very useful. Like, you will have versions that I'm adamant is a fact, right? Like, whether you're aware of it or not, you are continuously changing all the time, because there's no way that you can make the exact same choices all the time, right? I mean, unless, I don't know, you're in some freaking hole that you just don't move outside of anywhere, and you're just trapped within some kind of decision loop, right? But I feel like if you're in the game of getting better, or at least trying to point your compass north all the time and get as close to north as you can, then you're gonna have things that you leave behind and things that you give up for the future, and what you think is better, and you might be wrong, and then you can have to go back, right? But I'm finding a lot of joy, especially recently, in looking back through and taking a time period where I knew something was really successful, and just digging deep in not only what was the success, why do I feel like it was a success, but also how did I achieve it? By accident, of course. This goes back to the accidental success, because none of those things, when I first started making improvements in myself, were on purpose at all, obviously, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about anything. I was just doing stuff basically by pure willpower, essentially, right? But now I want to do it with the system. I don't want to just grip my reality and just make it what I want. I want to find a way to flow it there so it doesn't require so much energy to change the system, and I can continuously produce that without having to just white knuckle grip my way to driving into the fast lane. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I skipped over something there, but whatever. Just, if you're new to self-improvement and you've kind of just been existing forever, which is everybody, right? Most people don't think about, like, how can I improve my life day to day, minute to minute, year to year. You just think about, like, oh, social media, the movie came out, right? And, everybody goes through periods of that too. But if you try and, like, just stay on the ball, even just a little bit, like this whole, whatever it is, Kaizen or something, getting 1% better all the time, which I'm not super good at. I like to just spin my wheels super fast, jump 10 places, and then get burnt out and then do nothing. And it was not a good system at all, but at least I'm aware, right? And, I'm still moving forward. But when you get in the game of consistently moving forward, or consciously changing for the better, or just in general, and being aware of that, then you can once you have been doing it for a while, as now I'm, like, I would say officially probably 5 years, half a decade in, somewhere in there, of where I've been consciously making an effort to better myself and my circumstances and be aware of my inner workings, like, as consciously as I can to change things and observe myself. Then you can, once you get some miles under your belt and you can kind of see these past versions, then to really take a look at them and to really sit and dissect what you did right before, and how to recreate that with a system so that you can keep that reliably, right? So that you don't have things come into your life and it changes you. So the big thing that I've come back to recently is this basically really good emotional control, where I don't get all up in arms about everything. And I think part of that maybe was moving, but I think I was really emotional. I didn't even realize it. But just recently I was able to identify that a big success of my past was being able to keep myself cool all the time, right? It might be a lie. I might not actually be cool, but I don't display it. I don't display it at all. And that's very valuable, because everyone doesn't need to know. You don't need to broadcast to the world every little problem that goes through your mind, right? Just because we have a quick misunderstanding at work doesn't mean I need to, like, show you my insecurity. Nah, you just be cool and move on. That's it, right? And then you can think about it later if it was anything more, but usually it just goes away and it's actually fine, right? So I was able to go back, and in my, like, last year of high school, first year of college, was when I would, maybe the last 2 years of high school, first year of college, I would say that I somehow, just by accident, I started working out, and, had a really good group of friends that was supportive, and it was, like, really being accountable, waking up at 5 a.m. and then, challenging myself and doing new sports and doing things I would never do before, and just pushing myself in all these different areas, just accidentally got it done. Well, now trying to do it intentionally is goddamn impossible, right? But just looking back through there, and if I did it before, I can do it again for sure. And just looking back and be like, how can I implement this now? And then suddenly, it was like just trying to put wires together to get this system to light up, and then I'm doing it forever, and it's so frustrating. And then all of a sudden it's like, boop, and the light dings on, and it's like, oh, I found it. I found that past version. I found exactly what it was and how I did it, and then I just popped it into place. And now, like, it's taking effort, but I'm like slowly making it continuously part of my system again. There you go. That's designing your life right there, ladies and gentlemen. And that's all I'm saying. So those two kind of go more hand in hand than I realized, but that's kind of all I have to say about that, I think. Just, and I guess actually, real quick, make sure that you don't get stuck looking at those older versions, because sometimes it's real easy to just, like, you're looking at it and you're like, that was so great, and now doesn't have that, right? And then it's easy to get stuck in the past and trapped by it, and then you don't want to move forward because you're so busy living there, and that's not how you move forward. So just observe it intelligently and without emotion, and just chill out and, okay, how can I make this happen? And not hyper-fixate on it to the point where it's unhealthy. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but it can be done. Anything can be done. Where there is a will, there is a way, my friends. So that's what I got there. That's it. And I don't think I really have any life hacks unless I can come up with something super quick on the fly. Okay, yeah, I can do this. I was thinking about this on my way home. Life hack. Let me just write it down just in case I save these. I was also thinking, before I get to this, because like sometimes I do really feel bad about not editing these videos, because like I take drinks, I always have a drink in these damn videos, and I'll just, and I feel bad. Like if I was a viewer of a show and I had to watch that shit, I would not be thrilled about that. But it is what it is, man. This is my show. Baby. This is how I'm running it right now. And it's real. Like, I'm not cutting shit out. You see me. I'm right here. I might as well be naked. You see everything, right? So, no, I'm not editing any videos. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I am not taking that extra step. Yet. Maybe ever. I kind of like it. Especially for me. Because, again, like, not only is this video to show, the journey there, and, I'm starting from nothing, and blah, 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 right? Everyone can do it, all that stuff. It's also for me, so that, when I have reached my definition of success and then some, I can look back and be like, So this long form, I think it's able to highlight. I can get more raw data in here, essentially, than if I'm like picking and choosing what is right and what is wrong to display. And it is what it is, If I can embarrass myself a little bit, who cares? It'll be okay. What's the worst thing? So, my life hack for today is the cost to value ratio. Yeah. So this is something that I've tried to implement recently on how I think about things. And this kind of comes into the whole emotional intelligence and keeping my stuff still and chilling out. Is, instead of being like emotional about why I should or shouldn't take a decision, I can think about what is the cost to the value ratio, and is that worth it to me? Like today at work, it started to slow down, and I was making like okay money in the first probably 3 hours, and then it was like hour 4 or 5, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just try and see if I can get cut and go home. And so, to my surprise, it worked, and I got cut, and I go home. And something I've been doing recently that makes me feel a lot better is that not only do I count because I've always, excuse me, like I've kept this financial thing going where I plot everything out and I track it all, right? And I write it down and I put in all my tips at the end of every day, so I can punch it in and filter it through, and you can see all the percentages and totals and whatnot. But I calculate the hourly, which is going to come into what I'm going to talk about later, actually. But I calculate the hourly to see like how much I made per hour that day without my actual hourly pay. So just with the tips, because that, sometimes I go home with like $150 and I'm like, wow, that was not even worth it to go in today. But then I total it out and it's like 25 an hour. And I'm like, okay, that's like kind of, the higher end of most base entry jobs, right? Because that's what the job that I'm in is. Serving is not something that requires like training or education. I mean, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you can engineer it, right? Of course, like anything, but you're directly responsible. Okay, I'm advocating for serving here, but the point is that it's pretty good, right? And so then I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe the day was worth it. If I was making $22.50 an hour or $23.75 an hour, that's like, for the amount of work that I do, like actual labor that I put in, effort that I put in, is pretty good. And so today, geez, all that for a little side loop. Today, I made $76. And I usually feel bad about trying to go home early and get cut. Usually I'm like, as soon as I get in, I'm just going to plan on closing, because it's like, I might as well. And then I don't have to be upset if I don't get cut. But I left and I like started feeling a little guilty about leaving, just because I'm not going to be making as much money. And I was thinking, you know what? It was like already been slowing down. So with, 3 hours left in the shift, I probably maybe would have gotten to $100, right? And so then my ending total hourly, not with my hourly paycheck, but just with the tips, was 15 something, which is not great compared to what it usually is, right? But this, if I had waited, my point is, Jesus H, if I had waited and I had gone to the end, I probably would have made barely $100, maybe, and then it would have dropped down to like 11. So would I have made more money? Yes. So from a pure stack the cash perspective, it would have been better, but the cost to value ratio, so it would have cost me more hours of time, and I would not even be here yet to record this video. And I would have only gained, the value would have only been like $24 more. What is that worth to me? Is it more worth it to come home and relax and hang out for a minute and then make a whole video, and then I can go outside and sit down with a beer or something and smoke a cigar and go through, and I can write my whole next video? That's a lot more value. That is worth $20 to me for sure, to have the time to do that. So, and I look at that with anything, like that's how I thought about getting my new TV. Is okay. Yeah, I can buy, like, because I wanted to save up for like an 80-inch, and that's like $2,000. And I was thinking, okay, I could go to Target like tomorrow and buy a 55 for $350. Now, I was watching it on like a 30-inch, maybe less, like a 27 or something. That's what I was watching everything on from my couch. It's like 10 feet away. Horrid, Anybody who's got a fucking small TV knows it's the worst shit ever. Maybe you don't know because you've never had a big TV. But I've had a big TV, and I had to get rid of that shit when I moved. And then I had to start watching on this tiny little baby screen, and it was like torture, right? So the cost of $350 to the ratio to the value of like a pretty good sized TV that I get to keep the TV. I get to have that for until it breaks, and I can always use a TV in any room of the house, you know? So as soon as I buy a bigger TV, I just throw that thing into a basement, like if I ever have a basement, a man cave, some other room, another office TV, whatever, mount it, make a freaking magic mirror out of it. Who knows? Right? Whatever. So the cost to value ratio is there. So that's how I've been looking at things to rationalize them instead of just being like, yeah, I want a TV, let's buy it, and then buying the TV. So using a cost to value ratio just as like a mindset to think about any moves in life. That's my life hack for today. And with 10 minutes left, I'm going to go into just a little story, I think. So this is kind of like, this is kind of more for me. So if you want to tune out, I'm cool with that. Not that I really have any say, right? But, and ain't nobody watching this sucker right now anyways. But that's the name of the game when you first start. That's how the dice is rolled. But, so, thinking, starting, and we'll go there. So obviously when I first graduated high school, I didn't have a plan. And I went to college like everybody else, because everybody else does, and that's what everybody said you should do, and you got to plan for this, and you got to do your essays, and you got to get your scholarships, and push. Take all these, advanced placement courses, and get a good score on the SAT, and so you can get it into a good school. Like, everything is designed to push you into college, right? And I never even thought about the reality of that. It was just like, that's how life is, right? So then I get to college, and everyone there's dumb. It's just high school, but bigger, and it costs money. Or more money, anyways. I mean, I went to the public school, so I didn't have to pay any money, but that's not the case for everybody. But it just blew my mind that I was paying, like, I didn't go to a crazy good school, but it was still like thousands of dollars that I was gonna have to pay back someday. And that's real, bro. Like, I ain't paid $1,000 for anything ever in my life at that point. So, I get there, and it's just not cost to value ratio again. Not there. It's not there at all. So that's when I start thinking outside the box, and I start thinking like, maybe this isn't for me. What's something that I can really sink my teeth into, and that'll make me money? Because I can't see myself doing this forever. Because I was going for whatever. I don't want to get super deep into that, but early in my career to be going into that. But so essentially, I had my stepdad. It was big dog in the trades, and so he hooked me up, got me a job. And then I made a plan that I was going to start working just whatever entry level he could get me in. Jesus, need some water. And then I was going to grind through, see how it goes, and make a plan for what I was going to do and which direction I was going to go. Because you can go a lot of different places in the trades. And so once I got in, after like probably 5-6 months, I decided I wanted to go into lineman, because you get to travel a lot, they get good per diem, it looks fun, you get to do cool stuff, and I knew a lot of guys that, like neighbors and things like that made a lot of money doing it. So like, okay, I want to become a lineman. So I worked a few more months for the company that I was working for, and then I was gonna go to school. I drove to the school to like sign up for the lineman program, but then it turned out that you had to buy a ticket, and I missed the opportunity. I was gonna have to wait a whole another year. And so then I started thinking, like, what if I just don't do this? What if I just go into business with myself, and I just find a way to make money, and because I want to be rich. I've always wanted to be rich. And that's kind of the main point. I don't see working a job until I die. I just can't. I've never been able to see that. And so I need to find a way to do that. And these was kind of like a means to an end to a lot of money. Maybe I could, if lineman pays me like a buttload of money, then I could just do that forever. Sure. I guess I didn't think that far ahead when I was 19. But I just had this idea. What if I just went into business with myself? And everyone was like, no, just do the lineman thing. Just stick with it. Just go figure it out. Like, it's not that bad. You don't have to pay for school. You're going to make so much money and all this stuff. And granted, like, you do come out of the, like, you start the program at like 15 to 20 an hour, which is pretty good. Like, at the time, the trade job was the greatest thing I ever, like, most money I ever made, and I was making 16 with a night shift premium. Like, it was 14 plus 2. So, and that was the most insane money I'd ever made in my life. And so instead I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to just work a normal job, right? I'm going to hooch up with some friends and just get an apartment. And then I'm just going to try and figure something out and just learn and see what I can do. And the understanding that college is not for me, that I don't see myself going this full route. I don't like the people that are here. I'm not inspired by the program. I don't believe that this is going to give me the life that I want, and choosing something else was something, I mean, my parents supported me. Like, I think they've always believed that I can just figure stuff out because I always have. But there's 3.5 minutes left. He spends 20 seconds sipping and then the other 30 explaining why he should have done that something different. Whatever. So basically, I understood that college was not for me, and I took a big risk to not go to college, even though everybody else was. All right, and so I chose to drop out and leave school, and then I took a bigger risk, like not to do what seemed like the best option and seemed like a good plan, even though everybody wanted me to. And then if I hadn't done that, I would have never been able to move to Miami. And in this time period, I've learned so much, not only about life and like how to actually live and exist and be successful just day to day, which is hard enough, right? Especially young. But I've also learned like what direction I want to go, and it's helped me formulate my plan and my blueprint for how I want to create my life, right? And it's led me to some really important people that have changed my life, ideas that have changed my life, right? And then took a big risk. You know, nobody really said like, nah, homie, you should just stay where you're from. You should stay in Michigan, bro. Stay in the town that you're from. But I was like, no, bro, I want to move to Miami. I want to move to Miami because, you know, I think that's where good opportunities are going to be. And I think it's going to lead me to a better life. And so all of these things, big risks. And this is not Mr. Nick toots his horn right now. This is, if I was not willing to take, and right now, so all that lead up here, right now, I'm doing better. And I'm like just getting out of the gutter that I put myself in, right? And already just bouncing off, right? I just barely started to get okay, and I'm already doing better than I've ever done in my life. And that is like with the support of all my friends and family before, and living with 2 other roommates, and living at home, and having all the connections, but just taking the risks and being willing to put myself in a position where I might not make it, right? Now, smartly, with a plan and understanding where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do. Well, I mean, actually, sometimes not that smart. Taking that risk has led me to the biggest, most positive change in my life ever. And so that is what I'm going to say, that if you're thinking about doing something kind of crazy, even if everyone tells you no, but if you believe in it, do it. 100% do it. Even if nobody supports you, right? Make sure you know that it's a smart decision for you. But I would say, if you've really thought it through and you've got a plan, you're going to figure out that you were not right eventually. But you're going to figure out that you were right in some areas, you know, because I moved here thinking that this was going to happen and this was going to happen and this was going to happen, and ain't not shit happened like that. But better things happened. And so if you're willing to go the extra mile to find something, you're going to learn how to find it. You may not find it the way you thought, but you're going to find it, right? So, and the point is that everyone told me to stick with this lineman job, and go through, that would have been like 5 years of schooling. Granted, they pay for it, right? But it would have been 5 years of schooling, and I would have come out making like 20 to 30, from what I understand, an hour. And I make more than that now doing my base level job in a tourist town. So, big risk, big reward. That's how we play the game, my brothers and sisters. So, with that being said, 52 seconds left. I don't have anything to say in 52 seconds except for this rambling that I'm doing right now, of course. So, you guys be easy, be breezy. Have a good day, have a good night. I will see you on the next one. Stay focused, but don't hurt yourself. Live your life, but also design it. That's about all I got. Also, exercise. Clean your room. Clean your face. Shave your chest hair that looks bad, right? All that stuff. Stop drinking as much. Don't smoke. Don't vape. It's bad for you. Unless you really want to, then, do whatever you want to do. Yeah, it's your life. I can't tell you how to live it. I'm just a guy on the internet.